Hey guys, it's Jonathan here. iRacing has greatly enhanced and revamped their user interface or their heads-up display while you're driving the car, including adding the pedal trace telemetry and the virtual mirror blind spot indicators. It's led people to wonder what is next. When are we going to get a proper radar in iRacing? And somebody's posted this poll here on the iRacing subreddit, and it's got 1.2K total votes with the yes options having roughly 80% of the votes. I just combined the two yeses and yeah, I mean, I don't think it's fair to really separate yes, give us a proper radar, and yes, but only for single screens. Like, if it's available, if it's an option, it's going to be an option for everybody, but whatever. Anyways, I put myself into the no category. I'm going to look at some of these answers that people have posted, maybe give some rebuttals, and just kind of go over some common sentiments here. This one person says here that I'm all for it. In real life, you have mirrors, 360 degrees of vision, and way more sonic awareness. This is something that I would consider myself to disagree with, because in real life, you have a daily driver that you drive on the road and you still have blind spots all of the time. You have perfect freedom of movement. You have all of your peripheral vision. You have a regular seat belt, no helmet, so on and so forth. In this case, in sim racing, we have a very locked view, so we can't really like look around, at least not with our eyeballs. But at the end of the day, these drivers in real life are going to be wearing a helmet. They're very, very tightly strapped in. They are wearing a Hans device, which restrains your head and neck movements. Like, these drivers in real life, if you look at onboard cameras that are facing the driver, they're not able to move their head very much. You know, even in Formula One, you can see when they try to look left and right to see where the other driver is, they really can't seem to turn their head further than the mirrors that they have on their side pods. Like, they really are limited. And even like NASCAR, when they show the cup cars, the drivers, you can't really see that they're even trying to move their head, because I think it's actually useless to them. They really can't even see. There really isn't much peripheral view out of those things because of the head and neck restraints that they have built into the car. They're so tightly strapped in again. And actually, they have a rear view camera now in those cup cars, so they could see what the hell's going on behind them without needing to turn their head. And that actually is something that, yeah, we don't always have as sim racers. For example, if your field of view isn't set so that you can see your dashboard, you definitely can't see that that rear view camera. You may not even have the graphics capability to show that rear view camera. Like, I don't. I have it turned off to save on some performance. But also at the same time, I have a virtual camera on my virtual rear view mirror. So maybe that's like the alternative, and I'm using that. So maybe it's all the same. But anyways, point is, 360 degrees of vision. He does say it's an exaggeration, but honestly, I just don't agree with this point so much, because the peripheral view is actually quite nice. But again, I have triples, so it is what it is. Like, I assume that if I were just on single monitor, maybe I would feel that a radar would be quite necessary. But okay, again, I don't really agree with his opinion, or his reasoning, I should say. This person said they'd rather have radar allowed than be killed by a single monitor user. This is a very common idea that people have, and I agree with this. I would rather not have my race ended by a clumsy error that somebody made, but also I'd rather not have it be ruined by somebody who just really didn't know any better, because they're on a single monitor with a very zoomed in field of view. So I agree with this viewpoint entirely. As far as like a single monitor user goes, yeah, I could understand feeling like you're at a disadvantage because, well, you're on a single monitor. You can't see those tight corners. Maybe you can't see where that car is right next to you. It does make a difference. So I agree with this. The next one, don't like it, don't use it. I don't see how anyone could be against this. Now, this one here, I strongly disagree with. Don't like it, don't use it could lead to a very slippery slope argument. So I'm going to try to avoid from making that, but you don't see how anyone could be against this. Using a radar is going to give you an inherent advantage, right? The reason why you would use a radar is so you can know exactly how close that car is right next to you, or just know exactly how much room there is to make an overtake, so on and so forth. Not using that radar would naturally put you at a slight disadvantage. Every sim racer is different. Every setup is different. Every rig is different. Every PC is different, so on and so forth. Like there's millions of combinations as far as, a sim racer's setup goes, and everybody's looking to add new features, new displays, new whatever, right? Um, New peripherals. So no two setups, no two sim racing rigs are the same. But with that in mind, um, when I compare myself as a radar user in, say, like LMU versus a non-radar user in iRacing, I understand that if I were to turn it off on LMU, I would be at a competitive disadvantage in LMU. I also understand that my racecraft in iRacing is tested a little bit more because I have to judge how much space do I have in cases where they may be in my blind spot, and that would put me at a disadvantage. And I could see it on the replay in iRacing, like, oh, I could have used more space there. I think to myself, like, oh, if I knew, I would have used more space there. Maybe I make the overtake easier. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would think if radar came to iRacing, I would have to use it because I'd be at a competitive disadvantage right away. And if don't like it, don't use it is our argument, then realistically, we could add just about anything at any time to any series in iRacing, such as, the racing line. Maybe iRacing could improve the racing line and roll that out for all racing series instead of only limiting it to rookie and D class, right? Don't like it, don't use it. Also, what they could do is add third person camera, so you can view all around you at all time, or even just a look behind you camera like they have in the F1 games. I mean, there's a reason why all of the esport guys on F1 use the T-Pod camera, but don't like it, don't use it, right? In this case, yeah, sure, don't like it, don't use it. I won't use it. I mean, I guess I will because I'm going to have a competitive disadvantage if I don't use it, right? But anyways, all right, I don't want to get too salty here. This next person says, I have triples and wouldn't use it, but there have been so many times where I feel like a radar could have saved others from turning in on me. Yeah, I have triples. I wouldn't use it. I agree. And there have been some times where I feel like, yeah, people will turn in on you. Maybe they wouldn't if they knew that you were there. However, on LMU, everybody pretty much has the radar. It is on by default. I think you can turn it off, but it's just on by default. People still turn in on you all the time. It still happens. It's going to happen. It will continue to happen because people are fighting for every single position, every piece of tarmac that they can get. They're still going to turn in, hoping that you back out of the corner. Radar will not solve that problem. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I can agree with this, but at the same time, accidents are still going to happen for sure. This person summarizes it by saying that the debate is it better to have information fed to you that's closer to what you have in real life, but in an unrealistic way, or is it better to not have that information at all? I don't know if I agree with this either. I mean, I agree, I guess, with the summarization that this person has put together. But to say not have this information at all is a bit odd. Like, are we not driving with virtual mirrors? Like, I don't understand. Like, my virtual mirror does a lot of work for me. Now, you can also change that field of view of your virtual mirror as well to give you a more surround sound view of what you're looking for when you are in a battle with somebody. So you can zoom it out a little bit more and make it a little bit more fish eye, but you can definitely see a little bit better with that virtual mirror. But with that being said, the virtual mirror, I mean, I could see a lot with that virtual mirror. So I do feel like I have that information while I'm driving. I'm not completely in the dark. But anyways, this one I think knocks it out of the park. I get the feeling of needing a radar, but I don't think the racing will become better. This is a 2-point approach. The first point here is when he played LMU. He says, I used the radar, but I noticed I was driving a lot more aggressive because the radar tells you exactly how much space there is left between you and your rival and invites you to keep squeezing until there's no more space left. 100%, I agree with this. This is completely on the nose. I don't know for sure if this is something that you can prove or if this is like an objective fact. I know it is quite anecdotal, but at the same time, like, when you drive on LMU and you have that radar, it does give you a certain level of confidence that you don't automatically have on iRacing. I have to believe that this is 100% true. And it got me to think, like, okay, the aggressive driving is true. In iRacing, we have the spotter. When the spotter gives a call out, in some cases, it can be an invitation, depending on the racing series, the corner coming up, so on and so forth. Not every situation's the same. I understand, but like in ovals especially, it's a pretty big deal. Having the spotter call out car left, car right, whatever. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. It really does kind of make it so that you're entitled to the corner, kind of, or to that line, I guess you should say. Well, when that radar lights up yellow or red or whatever the way that they indicate is, it's almost like I made it. I'm alongside. I'm entitled to the position. You know, and it does allow you to drive a little bit more aggressively. So I would agree with the situation with a radar. And also, if you get closer to somebody, then you're going to be more on the limits of room, and closer means higher likelihood of contact. So, yeah, I think I just agree with this one. There's really not much more to say. Part two is fun factor in LMU. I noticed I was almost exclusively looking at the radar when battling. I was barely looking into my mirrors anymore. When I switched to iRacing, it felt a lot more fun trying to spot the opponent in my mirror. 1000% agree with this as well. When I'm on iRacing, I find myself, making sure I'm looking. Again, I have triple monitors, so I guess I have things to look at, but I am trying to see where that car is as best as I can. In LMU, yeah, you do realize, like, I really do rely on this radar to tell me where that other car is. And at some point in time, you notice, like, it's actually my primary source of information when I'm wheel to wheel rather than looking out the windshield. So I completely agree with this one as well. And as far as the fun factor goes, yeah, again, it's probably more fun for me to not have the radar because, again, I have something to look at. And now somebody here says, yeah, I'm all for it. It isn't realistic, but real drivers can move their necks and have peripheral vision. A response here says, you'd be surprised at how little you can move your neck when belted in with the Hans on, regardless, I'm all for a radar. I think it would help avoid a lot of dumb collisions. Triples, spotter, the look left, right buttons mapped and still have turned in when I shouldn't have. So yeah, this kind of harps on that point that when you are restrained with the head and neck restraint device, that you really can't move as much as you think. Also, like the helmets, we've been over this. But yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, anything to help the standards of racing is a positive. Sure, I can definitely see that side point. All right, Mr. Corso, it takes the approach here of kind of what I thought the typical iRacer would lean towards. I know this might sound goofy to some, but this is not a video game; it's a simulator. Yeah. I don't mind things like the relative on screen to tell me things that my spotter or crew chief would tell me in real life. As a single ultra wide screen racer myself, I would never want radar added to iRacing. I want realism and immersion. Yes. I would agree. Again, I think this is one of those situations where Buddy has a really good setup and therefore, doesn't feel like he needs a radar. I agree. Um, Now, the follow up comment is better turn off the spotter then. You don't have that in real life. And no, just because there's one in the oval doesn't mean that there's one in sports car, road course racing. This is 100% true as well. But again, it's one of those things where I feel that falls under an earlier comment that I had made where it's like, yeah, don't like it, don't use it. Well, if it puts me at a competitive disadvantage, then I might as well use it so that way I am on a level playing field. Not having a spotter puts you at a significant disadvantage compared to everybody else. Also, I mean, again, it's just one of those things where, yeah, we want ultra realism versus regular realism. I think a spotter is like a fine compromise to have, but anyways, you definitely have like the back and forth. Like, at what points? At what point is too realistic? What point is not too unrealistic? But anyways, there's no downside to a radar. Just some people really hate it for some reason. Just get triples, a NASA-powered computer, and drive like in real life. Why don't more people just do this simple thing? Not to say lots of fast guys are moving away from triples because of how the game runs, even on high-end PCs. Okay, so first off, again, There's no downside to radar, sure. Um, yeah, I completely understand like this idea that again, triples, NASA powered computer, drive like in real life, etc. There's just no way. Like I just don't believe that people are moving away from triples at all. I could not do that. If I had the option between triples and singles, I would choose triples or not race. Those would be my two options actually. So yeah, there's just no way. I understand going from VR back to triples because VR, depending on your setup, it can be a bit cumbersome to set up. Then you're in VR, which could be good for you depending on your graphics. Maybe your computer can't really put out the fidelity that you want. That's my situation. Um, or you just really can't afford those next level headsets. It's also my situation. So I see people moving from VR back to triples. I mean, I see that all the time. But from triples back to singles, I just don't see that. But anyways, okay. First corner at Spa without radar, just praying to God the whole time. First corner at Spa with or without radar, just praying to God the whole time. Radar makes no difference at Spa, at turn one, lap one. Like I don't understand this comment at all. It's always going to be a shit show. Um, it's a shit show in LMU. It's a shit show in iRacing. It's just always going to be a shit show. It's turn one at Spa. It's like radar's not going to save you. But okay. Somebody says, as a single screen driver, I'm kind of against this. Maybe it should be turned off for SOF above 3K only. I don't know if the SOF would be a good idea here because I think that's a little too arbitrary. Honestly, at the end of the day, a race series should either have the setting turned on or turned off. But if you have a chance that it may be on or a chance that it may be off, depending on other drivers' SOF or other drivers' iRating, that's not really the best indicator. But anyways, okay. So people argue that radar is unrealistic. No, what else is unrealistic? 27-inch screen as their entire field of view. It's a fair offset, I suppose. But I think this is a matter of preference here. Moving on here. Yeah, so this is a long comment here. But anyways, let's take a quick look here. So there's clearly some misconceptions with this, as well as intentionally biased poll answers. Is this NASCAR? Is this NASCAR? As others have said, a radar works well only when it's used as intended, and it never is. It's common on console games and is ultimately used as a blocking tool or a scapegoat for bad driving. Oh boy. I've been sim racing for over 20 years and spent the first 15 of those with a single monitor. The only major change to driver vision was a switch from 4 to 3 to 16 to 9 aspect ratio monitors. The major misconception with triples is that you can see the cars beside you, and in many cases that isn't the case at all. So true. In 99% of situations, if you can see a car on your side screens, they're already far enough along that you know they're already there. Now, while I agree with that, if you can see them, of course, you can see them. If you can know that they're there, but you can't see them, you actually don't know exactly how close they are. So there is a difference there. There is a benefit to having triples. I do think triples, um, maybe you don't see the difference as often in sports car racing, but when you are racing on ovals, for example, it makes such a huge difference knowing exactly how close that car is next to you and knowing how much room you have down the straight. But anyways, where triples really help is tracks like Coda, where an apex is very far to one side. This is very true. Yep. I mean, I think I like Coda. I see a lot of people don't like Coda. I blame it on them having a single monitor. But anyways, the argument just turn it off is also pretty thin because if I turn it off to prevent the distraction, it doesn't stop Jim Bob, who's only looking at the radar arrows and weaving all over the track to block people. Now, this seems like a viewpoint of somebody respectfully that is like maybe in a lower split. We don't really see too much weaving and blocking in like the top split. You just see a lot of like super aggressive defending or super aggressive overtaking. But this is true. Yeah, I mean, of course, if you turn it off, you're at a disadvantage. It's just the way that it is. Um, yeah, anyways, instead of adding junk to clutter the screen or distractions that will ultimately cause more problems than they solve, what if we as a community instead supported better driving standards and behaviors? What if we said, hey, learn situational awareness, learn when to spot a car that has a lot of momentum, it will be alongside you? Yeah, Sure, that's not a bad opinion. I mean, maybe we phrase it differently, but honestly, I just don't think that iRacing is equipped with that mindset at the time. But here we go. Another one that says kind of what we're looking for. Radars fundamentally change how people drive. You no longer look at the track in front of you. Your eyes are glued to the radar because you're trying to milk the person beside you for every inch of space they'll let you. You get more dives and stupid moves because I was alongside on the radar. Very well said. Oval drivers, including myself, have been doing just fine without one forever. If we can deal with such tight margins with just a spotter, why is it so desperately needed on road? Yeah. And I think we might end it on that one. There might be some more opinions here. Um, I'll just kind of breeze on by, but radars do change how people drive. If anybody disagrees with this, I honestly think that they're wrong. It does change how you drive. Um, Whether it changes you for the better or for the worse, yeah, it depends on the person, of course. But it is true. Like you end up being able to close every single gap and make sure that there is no room for time loss into the corner. And if you're not using that advantage, then what do you have the radar on for? That's like a very simple question. Like if you see that you have this much space on your radar, and you say, okay, that's enough space, then you're just really screwing yourself into the next corner. If you see this much space on the radar, you're going to close it down so that way you have a better entry and a better exit into the next corner. But anyways, okay, cool. Yeah, I think we about covered it all. Some very interesting viewpoints here. I'm mainly surprised that the vote is like very swayed to yes. Like 80% of people are saying yes. I yeah, I just kind of I'm not so convinced. I don't think any of the arguments are really that strong in my view. I would prefer that we don't have a radar, and I think I'll leave it at that. Let me know what you guys think, of course. Obviously, would love to hear and have a conversation, but ultimately, that is where I stand. I think I covered it all, but yeah, let me know if there's anything that you think that I should know in regards to this. But until next time, I appreciate it.